Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on vague pronoun references. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts, grade 7. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of vague pronoun references. All right, so our chapter is vague pronoun references. Our subject is English language arts, grade 7. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of vague pronoun references is to identify vague pronoun references, and it is to identify all the possible antecedents. This is grade 7. Is the grade 3 not playing yet? Are you talking about grade 3 in maths? Because this is grade 7. All right. So when it comes to vague pronoun references, right? When we write, then you need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references, right? And a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. So they're basically saying that you need to be specific when you, for example, either write something, even when you are conversing, when you're talking. And if we, for example, if we look at an example, Or before we go to our example, right? We said when we are writing, we need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references. And a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. And if we look at that example, right, and then the example says, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So now the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief? Was it Lisa or was it Kim? Because remember, both of them are ladies or girls, right? Which means that if we make mention of our pronoun, both of them will be she. And if we look at that specific sentence, then clearly it is not being specific. So they're not being specific. And when we look at, for example, that specific sentence, right? Where it says that when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So now the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief? Was it Kim or was it Lisa? So when the pronoun could refer to, or more like, let's say, when the pronoun she or the pronoun she could refer to either Lisa or it could refer to Kim. Because, like I say, both of them, we refer to them as she, right? So, once again, the pronoun she could refer to either Lisa or it could refer to Kim. So, the meaning of the sentence is then unclear. And if we look at the vague pronoun references and how it can be corrected, right? We can correct this vague pronoun reference in two ways. Because remember, a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when the pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. It is when it is not being specific, right? Because, like, we made an example where we said that when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. That is not being specific because both of them refer to being she. But now the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief? So, in order for us, so when, let's say, for example, if we look at that sentence, right? So, the pronoun she that refers to either Lisa or Kim could refer to Lisa or could refer to Kim, right? Because it's unclear. And in order for us to correct the vague pronoun reference, we can do it in two ways. And the first way is to replace the pronoun with its correct antecedent. For example, when Lisa and Kim finally landed, Lisa breathed a sigh of relief. Or we can just rewrite the whole sentence by, for example, saying Lisa breathed a sigh of relief when she and Kim finally landed. And that is more clear, right? Now we know who we are talking about, who or what the pronoun refers to. All right. And then also a vague pronoun reference, it also occurs when we use words like they, them, their, theirs, it, or its is used without its antecedent. For example, we can say they say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. They say. So vague pronoun reference also occurs when they, them, their, theirs, it or its is used without an antecedent. All right. And we said that when we use vague pronoun references, they can also occur when we use more than one pronoun or when our pronouns are then plural, right? For example, if we say they say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. It's what they say. But now the question is, who is they? The question is, who is they? So which means that this they is used without an antecedent. So which means that the meaning of those words are unclear, right? And the problem can be fixed by replacing the pronoun with its missing antecedent. All right. And we said that the problem can be fixed by replacing the pronoun with its missing antecedent. For example, by saying the advertisements say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. You see how you need to basically be more specific. Because if you just say, no, they say, who is they? That is a question. Who is they? But if you say the advertisements said so, the nail parlor, what, all right, they maybe said so. Now we know that is being specific because now we clearly see who said what. And then if we look at the second choice, right? A second answer choice contains a vague pronoun reference, and the pronoun hers could refer to Carly's or Mia's, right? So now, okay, that is basically the next one. But now, on the essence of basically what we're talking about, vague pronoun reference, right? It means that we need to be specific. If you have a sentence or a statement that does not make clear, that is not clear based on the pronoun that is being used, then it means that you're either going to replace that pronoun with the correct antecedent, or you're going to rewrite that sentence to make it seem, more specific. Because pronoun, like a references, vague pronoun references, right? It occurs when something is unclear, when you have a sentence or a statement but it is unclear, because who are you talking about? Who said that? Who did that? If you were to ask those questions within a sentence, then it means that that is a vague pronoun reference that is being used. All right. So now we're going to a+students.ca, and before we go to a+students.ca, we will be continuing on our vague pronoun reference, right? We say that when you're writing, you need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references. You need to avoid it, like stay away from it, right? And a vague pronoun reference occurs when when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent, especially if they're not being specific. And we can replace our vague pronoun reference to with the correct antecedent or rewrite the sentence for it to make more sense. That is only when we feel like the meaning of our sentence is unclear, right? All right. Now we're going to a+students.ca, and we're going to identify vague pronoun references. All right, so we see that when writing, we need to make sure to avoid the vague pronoun references. You need to be specific, right? And a vague pronoun reference occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. And we made an example here where we said that Lisa and Kim finally landed. She breathed a sigh of relief. So the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief? All right. So we say that we need to make sure to avoid the vague pronoun references. And when you do feel you are, for example, either not being clear or you are repeating, then we can just replace the pronoun with the correct antecedent, or we can just rewrite the whole sentence or redo the whole sentence. All right, and made an example where we said that when Lisa and Kim finally landed, she breathed a sigh of relief. So the question is, who breathed a sigh of relief? Because both Lisa and Kim are females, which means that we both for both of them we say she. And when we ever we are writing and our vague pronoun references is not correctly, then we can correct it in the following ways. The first one is to replace the pronoun with its antecedent. All right. So we said we either replace the pronoun and put the correct antecedent, or we just rewrite that whole sentence in order for it to be clear, or to make it clear, or to sound clear. Right? All right. All right. And if we look at the example, right, of the nail polish, where we said a vague pronoun difference, it also occurs when we use words like they, them, their, theirs, it, or its, and that is used without an antecedent. So even there, once again, if mistakes are being made because of the pronouns that we are being used, then you can either rewrite it. All right. And we say that they say that this nail polish dries in less than 5 minutes. If you just say things like they say that this t-shirt, they say that this sneakers, they say that this nail polish dries less than 5 minutes. So now the question is, who does they belong to? Who is they? Right? So you need to ask yourself questions like, who is they? If you must either say the advertisements, the sale consultant, the something. But if you just use the word they, then it means that it is a vague pronoun reference. It is not clear. So now let's go to our test. We're now going to identify the vague pronoun reference within the sentence, right? And we're going to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. It says the Hanson's car looks just like the Estrada's, but theirs has a dent in the bumper. Or do we say option two, the Hanson's car has a dent in the bumper, but otherwise their car looks just like the Estrada's? We need to identify the pronouns and say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference. All right, and if we were to select or to say which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference, which is not being clear, we will go with option one. Because there it says the Hanson's car looks just like the Estrada's, right? But theirs has a dent in the bumper. So now you don't know who specifically they're talking about. All right, and theirs is correct. Which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? All right, so now we're going to say which contains the vague pronoun reference. It says Mrs. Hunt's cell phone rang just as she finished brewing Becky a cup of tea. Or do we say option two? Just as Mrs. Hunt finished brewing Becky a cup of tea, her cell phone rang. And now it says, which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? It just doesn't make sense. Does it say Mrs. Hunt's cell phone rang just as she finished brewing Becky a cup of tea? Or do we say just as Mrs. Hunt finished brewing Becky a cup of tea, her cell phone rang? So the second option is our vague pronoun reference. It just does not make sense. It is not clear. You don't know who they're actually specifically talking about. And if we were to select what the vague pronoun reference is within that sentence, right? It says Carly went up and thanked Mr. Mills after he finished performing with Mr. Durant, or do we say after Mr. Mills finished performing and with Mr. Durant, Carly went up and thanked him? So we will say option two is vague because we don't know who he went to thank. Was it Mr. Durant or was it Mr. Mills that she went to greet? But option one gives us the proper and clear reference. The next one says, which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? Carly takes yoga classes at Mia's studio. So this yoga mat might be hers. Or option two, where it says Carly takes yoga classes at Mia's studios. So this yoga mat might be Carly's. So once again, we say Carly takes yoga classes at Mia's studio. So this yoga mat might be hers. So we will say option one is our vague pronoun reference because they're saying that, Carly's doing, I think so, either gymming or some yoga classes at Mia's place. But now they're saying it might be hers. So hers might refer to Carly or Mia's, right? Right. So if we were to choose the vague pronoun reference, we would choose option one as the vague pronoun reference. It's not clear, right? Because we don't know whose method is. All right, the next one says, which of the following contains a vague pronoun reference? It says Andy worked with Ed to design the new header for Ed's website. Or do we say Andy worked with Ed to design the new header for his website? Which one is the vague pronoun reference? Where it is just not clear. Like we don't know who specifically they're talking about. We need to choose the vague pronoun reference within the sentence. Once again, we say Andy worked with Ed to design the new header for Ed's website. Or do we say Eddie worked with Ed to design the new header for his website? And we will say, if we were to choose the pronoun reference, right, the vague pronoun reference, and then we will choose option two. Because option two is not clear. Option two says Andy worked with Ed to design the new header for his website. Is it now the website for Eddie or is for Ed or is it the website for Andy? That is the question that we need to ask. All right. And then the next one says, before we continue, it says If Kevin winds up attending Scott's performance, he will let Sarah know. Or do we say Kevin will let Sarah know if he winds up attending Scott's performance? All right, and we were to choose our vague pronoun reference within that sentence. Then we will choose option one. Option one is just not clear because we don't know who is going to be ending up with. All right, so now we're going to identify all the possible antecedents, right? All right. And now, when we identify all the possible antecedents within the sentence, right? Remember, we said that when we are writing, then we need to make sure to avoid vague pronoun references. And a vague pronoun reference, it occurs when a pronoun could refer to more than one possible antecedent. All right. And yeah, when they say the pronoun them is vague, we need to look at the text. The text says these olives still have pits inside, so be careful not to choke on them. And if we look at the word them, right, then them could refer to either these olives or it can refer to the pits, right? So now let's go to our test. And it says the pronoun in bold is vague, right? Select all the possible antecedents. It says my father puts lucky in the dog. My father puts lucky in the dog crates whenever he needs to go somewhere. Or my father puts, okay, we need to go somewhere. So it's either my father and Lucky or my father and Kritz. We need to select the pronoun that is, the pronoun in bold is vague. So we need to now select the pronoun. So I don't know if they want me to choose the correct one or not the correct one. Let's see if we put the correct one. Yes, so my father or Lucky, that could be the possible, antecedents there. So the pronoun his is vague. We need to select the possible antecedents that might refer to his. It says, when I looked at the photograph, my uncle and my grandfather, I thought I have a nose like his. Or when I looked at the photograph of my uncle and my grandfather, I thought I have a nose just like his. And if we were to choose the correct or the possible antecedent, we can choose option one. And let's do the last one. It says, the pronoun his is vague. Select the possible antecedents that might mean his. It's George Gershwin, studied piano with Charles Hambitzer, and composition with Henry Cowell. His older brother Ira wrote the lyrics for many of his compositions. We now need to say which one is the possible antecedents. Is it George Gershwin, Charles Hambitzer with Henry Cowell, or George Gershwin, Charles Hambitzer, and his brother Ira? Let's choose option one. Yes, and option one is our antecedent. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on the vague pronoun reference. Thank you very much for joining our class. Remember, we said when it comes to vague pronoun references, if our sentences does not is if it's not clear, if it is unclear, then it means that it is a vague pronoun reference, right? Then you either have to correct it by choosing the correct pronoun or by rewriting that sentence in order for it to make sense, right? So this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, grade sevens, for joining the class, and I really hope you're going to have a good day further. So till next time, goodbye.